Hello everyone and welcome to today's class on cloud computing. I hope you are doing well. So in the beginning of this course, one of the first things we discussed was what supply chain management was. And just to remind you, supply chain management is basically when two or more parties are linked by a flow of resources, typically material, information, and money that ultimately fulfill a customer's request. It is vital in any company for information to be exchanged, because it's only through information exchange that one party can inform the other party what order they would like to place. And the party that's actually providing the goods can also exchange information and let the receiver know the status of their goods. And not only that, but there are many other situations in which information is exchanged in supply chain management, all of which is essential. In essence, supply chain management cannot happen without the exchange of information. It is vital to not only create information, but save information for an organization, because many times information is extremely important for the company to continue its operations. For example, in the case of a hospital, it is essential for patients' records to be maintained. Without that, a hospital cannot function. And so that's why in supply chain management, information is vital. That being said, the question is, how should information be stored? And if we look back and take a historical perspective, well before the invention of the computer, when companies would operate, they would store and save their information on paper, in registers, and in journals. And this was done pretty much across the board by all companies. Then the computer was invented. Initially, huge mainframe computers were invented that were very rarely used by very large organizations. So only the very rich and large corporations were able to use mainframe computers. But slowly and steadily, computers became readily accessible and the internet also came into being. Initially, when companies started using computers, these were able to save their information on their local PCs. But since companies deal with a lot of information, they were also able to save a lot of their information on something known as data servers. And so data servers they basically look exactly like this photo in this slide. And so there are these big machines, and they have the ability to store a lot of information. This is extremely important. Just imagine if, for example, a bank, and there's thousands and thousands of different accounts of customers. And all of that data needs to be stored somewhere. And that data cannot just be stored on the hard disk of a computer. There's just way too much information. So the information is stored on data servers. Usually, initially at least, data servers were stored in-house within the organization. So there would be a room, a dedicated room, a temperature-controlled room where IT professionals would be sitting, and they would ensure that these servers were being, storing all the information. Also, that information was easily being able to be retrieved from these data servers. And so that was how things worked. But then what happened is that the internet came along. And once the internet came along, there were all these applications that started being offered by companies. And So, many of these are web-based applications. And what I mean by that is, just for you to understand, web-based applications are example of that is Facebook or Google, Instagram, TikTok. All of these are web-based applications, and a lot of people started using these applications, and a plethora of information started needed to be stored. And so around that, with the introduction of the internet soon after, the concept of cloud computing was introduced. And what happens in cloud computing is that there's not just one room of data servers. There are millions of miles of data servers, also sometimes known as server farms, because these are huge. So for example, Facebook owns these, a data farm in the US. And so all of the information, you could be sitting in Pakistan, you could be sitting in China, you could be sitting anywhere in the world. And whenever you are accessing Facebook, your information, let's say you're uploading photographs, those informations are sent via the internet and stored all the way in the US on a cloud. And what a cloud looks like is something like this, but just imagine millions and millions of miles of these kind of servers, because that's the requirement, right? That's how much information is now being saved. So usually the people that provide these apps, the app owners, are the ones that also own these data farms or these clouds. In essence, before I go on, I also want to read out a couple of definitions of the cloud. On this slide, it says, cloud computing is the on-demand availability of computer system resources, especially data storage and computing power, without direct active management by the user. Any internet-enabled device, laptop, tablet, smartphone connected to a network of remote servers hosted on the internet to store, manage, and process data rather than a local server or a personal computer. Applications are hosted or run on internet servers. So again, what this means is that it's through the internet servers that all of this information is saved. One of the really big benefits of using a cloud is that once the information is saved on a cloud, you can access it pretty much from any device. So for example, once you have a Facebook account and you've signed up, your information, you can access your Facebook account pretty much through any device, through any laptop, through any tablet, through any smartphone. And so that's the benefit of cloud computing. Before I go on further, I do want to mention there are several types of clouds. There's not just one type of cloud. So the type of cloud that I've been talking to you about so far is called a public cloud. And a public cloud is basically a cloud that is hosted by a third party at a remote location. So it's not, it's not going to be in the company, for example. It will be hosted somewhere outside. A private cloud on premise is one that is a cloud. It's going to be hosted by a third party, but it will be within the firm's premise. And a hybrid cloud is a mix of a public and private hosting. As we move forward in this presentation, I will also be discussing with you some computing models. And there are three types of computing, cloud computing models. There is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And I'll save that for a later slide where I'll explain each one of these to you. Okay, next I want to talk to you a little bit more about the benefits of cloud computing. So the first benefit I've actually already mentioned to you, which is that once you've stored your information on a cloud, it can be accessed by multiple devices, through your phone, through your laptop, through your desktop, whatever. You can use it pretty much through, through a tablet, for example, multiple devices. Another really big benefit is that your information is backed up on those various um, services. For example, once you've uploaded your photographs on Instagram or on Facebook, your information, your photos are stored. And so you really don't need to worry about, what if your computer, you don't have access to your computer? Well, not an issue. For example, you uploaded your photos on a computer and for some reason the computer stopped working. You may lose your information if that's the only place you stored your photos. But if you have stored them on Facebook or on Instagram, for example, your information is backed up, and so you can go to another computer and find and access your photos. Another really big benefit is that if you use a cloud computing, you don't need to use as much computer power. And what I mean is that usually there is storage in every computer. And as you use up the storage, your computer starts working slower. And so it's less efficient. But if you're using cloud, then there's very little information that you really need to store on your computer, and your computer can work a lot faster. Another big benefit of using the cloud is that the setup cost and the time to set up is basically very low. And so once you sign up with a cloud, or once you start working, through cloud computing, it's pretty quick, and you won't be needing a lot of time. Another big, and so those are, just to give you in synopsis, there are quite a few big benefits of using the cloud. And that's really why a lot of companies have been gravitating and moving towards using the cloud. With all of the great advantages of using cloud computing, there are also some disadvantages. And I would like to share some of those disadvantages of cloud computing with you as well. So the first thing is, when you start using cloud computing and you don't have a lot of information to store, it's a very cost-effective solution. But as the amount of data that you need to store increases, the costs don't always stay as low. For example, there is a service called Dropbox where you can save in some of your files and upload them. It's also a web-based application. But the thing is, they provide some free services, but as the amount of information that you need to store increases, you need to start buying a bigger account. And so it's not as cost effective. Another very big disadvantage is that the information that is stored on a cloud has unrestricted government access. So if, for example, the cloud is based in the US, the government of the United States has complete access to the information that is stored on the cloud. This, in many cases, leads to serious security and privacy risks. And not every company is very comfortable having their information easily accessible to external parties. So this is a very big risk when you are using cloud computing. Another big disadvantage is that if you're using cloud computing, many times there are automatic updates and enforced changes in the application. Whether you want those changes or not, they happen. And those automatic updates sometimes also take a little bit of time. And so you can't really function normally while those updates are happening. Also, if you get very dependent on, some of these web-based applications that are stored on clouds, for example, you can start having a very heavy reliance on external vendors, and this can lead to a risk, because if for any reason your relationship doesn't stay the same, or the external vendor goes through certain problems, your own operations can be heavily affected. Also, vendors, the power is really in the hands of the cloud computing vendor when you are working with them, and they basically determine the level of service that they're providing. You really aren't in a position to request for a lot more. They have a standard level of service that they offer, and it's sort of like either you take it or leave it. Again, if there are outages in the vendor, for some reason, the vendor is not able, the web application goes down, or the software that they're providing goes down, or they run into some problems that can really cripple your own operations. So given these disadvantages, some companies actually prefer to continue to use the old-fashioned in-house data servers as compared to using cloud computing. Now, there are several cloud models, as I had previously mentioned in this class. And I do not expect you to know these inside out, but I do want to give you a high-level overview of what these are. The first one is infrastructure as a service, and this is basically when you reach out to a cloud computing company and you say that you need to basically use or rent to a certain extent some physical or virtual machines and other resources. So basically this happens when you reach out to a cloud computing company and you say that you really are just interested in actually renting the infrastructure, the computers, for example. And so the cloud computing company gives you whatever types of computers you need, because they have a vast variety, and that's basically the agreement that you have. The advantage is that, look, you don't really need to buy computers, you don't need to invest in your hardware. As and when your demand increases for hardware, you can reach out to your cloud computing company and they can give you whatever you need. The contract is usually flexible, and also if you need new innovative machines, they can provide them to you on demand because they usually keep these. The next type of cloud computing model is the platform as a service. And in this, basically, you reach out to a third party and you say that you would like to, basically use their operating system. And an operating system is a system software that helps you manage your hardware and software. And so this is something that a lot of companies, for example, if they are high-tech companies and they really are, making new applications, well, they need a lot of specific specialized hardware and software. And so they may opt to get a platform as a service. And the benefit is, once they have a platform as a service, they have everything they need on their fingertips, and they can quickly make, new applications. It reduces the complexity. They don't need to worry about a lot of useless things. They can focus on their core competence and, develop these apps and get them out into the market very fast. The third type of cloud computing model is one that, perhaps some of you have already used, and this is basically software as a service. This is when, you reach out to a third party and you say, look, we would like to use the software that you are providing, and you rent it out. Basically, it's almost like a rental kind of a situation. And an example of that is Dropbox. That, again, this is a software where you can upload your files, and you can, so you're uploading these huge files, and you can share the link, and other people can all quickly access that information as well. So if you are using Dropbox, then you are basically using somebody else's software. So you're using software as a service. The benefits of using software as a service is that you can sign up and very quickly start using these, amazing business apps. You can use Dropbox, for example, pretty much from any device, and as long as you're connected to the internet, your data is not lost, and so it's saved on a cloud, and that's a huge benefit. You really don't need to worry about saving it on a hard drive. And you can actually scale up. So if your requirements continue to increase, then you can increase your storage. Obviously, you would have to pay a little bit more, but it's providing you some amazing services. So that's basically, in essence, the three types of main cloud computing models. And this slide is again just gives you again just a high level review of the cloud computing models. With that, I come to an end to this class, and I hope you enjoyed learning about computing. Thank you very much.